Today, we're going to talk about what is a pre-approval. As we go through the paperwork, pre-qual, pre-approval, desktop underwrite, formal conditional approval, all of those things are different stages through the pre-approval process. And depending on who you talk to, the different, different people, different real estate agents, different lenders provide different things. So let me break down the 4 stages of getting pre-approved. So stage number 1 is what we call pre-qual. Pre-qualification doesn't exist anymore, and it used to look something like this. You'd be talking with somebody at a restaurant or talking about at an office, and just on the back of a note paper, you would tell them how much income you made. You would tell them how much how much cash you have available for a down payment. You'd tell them your credit score, and they would say, "Yeah, you're pre-qualified." Years ago, this used to be acceptable, where you would do a pre-qualification letter, and that basically says that you've been pre-qualified based on the information that you provided. However, we call it the back of the napkin because there was no formal documentation provided to validate, the pre-qualification. So that's still something that is available and still around, although most real estate agents and most professionals in the community won't take a pre-qual letter because obviously they know that there's more due diligence that goes into a pre-approval. So stage 2 of a pre-approval is where you pull your documents together, you get it to a loan officer, and they issue something like this. It's basically a pre-approval letter. As part of the pre-approval letter, we have to verify 3 things. We have to verify your credit scores. We have to do a credit inquiry, and it is a hard inquiry on your credit report. We'll have to verify income. So in order to send the pre-approval letter, I have to see your tax returns, your W-2s, your pay stubs. The final thing will be looking at down payment. So if you tell me you're going to put 5% down, I need to see the bank statement. So it's a bit more formalized for the loan officer. This is done at the loan officer level. The loan officer looks at your information and provides a letter validating that we have verified credit, income, and down payment. And when you write an offer, this pre-approval letter is part of your contract. So not only the offer price that you're making for the sellers to accept and the other real estate agent to review, we're also confirming that we're involved with that transaction when we're putting the pre-approval letter together. As we move forward into more detail, step 3, or the 3rd stage of pre-approval, is what we call desktop underwriting. It's a form like this where basically there's 2 agencies that we'll discuss, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They do all of their approvals digitally, electronically. So based on the information that we put into your loan application, we submit it to them digitally. They will validate your credit and make sure your credit is eligible for the programs that they offer. So this desktop underwrite approval is of paramount importance because it is one step beyond just a paper pre-approval at the loan officer level. So this is actually when the loan is able to get transferred based on the nuances of the loan, when the bank's actually looking at funding. This is an enhanced step that for the most part, all loans need to have, is a desktop underwrital approval, because that just means that when the loan is funded internally at the bank's level, it doesn't impact you, but it makes sure that the banks can transfer that loan within each other because it's safe, because it has this desktop underwrite approval. While this is valid and definitely something required, it's not something that all real estate agents or most loan people would provide to a borrower. And this is a step, we're getting to step 4. What step 4 is a full conditional underwritten loan approval, something that looks a little bit more like this. So it basically is an itemized list based on your credit score, your name, the property address, and this outlines everything that's required to fulfill the loan or for the loan to fund. When the loan goes to the underwriter, it's important to know at this point, they do a lot of additional steps and double checks that do not happen at the desktop underwriting number 3 or even at pre-approval number 2. Let me explain. When the loan goes to the underwriter is going to check every county in every state to make sure that there's no liens, judgments, that your name's on any other properties, because all of that stuff should be disclosed to us in the loan application. If you fail or forget to tell us about a property that maybe your parents added you to their property, it'll show up in underwriting. So the underwriters do a forensic review of your information. So prior to issuing this conditional loan approval, that's the final stage and the most secure, because at that point, we're getting one master list with everything that we need. The other thing the underwriter is going to do is they are going to validate that the tax returns you've given us are the same that you've given to the IRS. So they're going to go to the IRS and request your IRS tax transcripts, and they're going to match them line for line to make sure that what you've given us has been provided the same information to the IRS. So those are the 4 stages. Of course, some lenders or some banks will work with us to get to step 4, which is a full underwrite. Not every bank does this, and it's important to know that some banks don't do this step until after you already have an offer accepted. So things that come up late in the process is typically because the underwriter is catching things that the loan officer really wouldn't have any visibility to knowing. So it's important that as we go through who we can hire to understand what the loan officer is going to do. Are they going to do just the pre-approval letter and what goes into that? Are they going to do the DE or the desktop underwrite, or can they get the loan fully underwritten? There are benefits to having a loan file fully underwritten in advance, even before you find a property, but we'll discuss that a little bit more in terms of contingencies. But I wanted to outline and just review the 4 steps or the 4 stages of pre-approval, which is pre-qual, which is back of the napkin, pre-approval done at the loan officer level, desktop underwrite or digital approval. That's done between between the loan officer and underwriter. There's a stage called processing, and then the underwriter. That's the most important one, and that's the one that will ensure a very smooth transaction. So that's your conditional loan approval or underwritten loan approval. So we'll discuss how this impacts us in the next sections.